For over 3 centuries, humanity had expanded quietly. Unlike most civilizations in the Orion Arm, humans did not conquer worlds through force. They traded. They negotiated. They built stations in places no one else wanted. The Galactic Assembly often mocked them for it. The mighty Zorvak's dominion possessed fleets large enough to darken stars. The Kethari Empire controlled entire sectors through military occupation. The Valor Collective commanded technologies capable of reshaping planets. And then there were humans. They built mining colonies on frozen moons, research stations near black holes, listening posts beyond the edge of explored space. Most galactic powers considered them harmless. That assumption would eventually destroy an empire. The incident began on Outpost Epsilon-9. Located near the Perseus Expanse, Epsilon-9 was little more than a collection of habitat modules, anchored to a barren asteroid. Its purpose was simple. Observe, lesson, Rupert. The station housed only 214 personnel, scientists, engineers, communication specialists, a handful of security officers. No one important, at least, that's what everyone believed. On a quiet cycle, Commander Sarah Hayes stood inside the observation dome, watching distant stars. The blackness beyond the glass seemed endless. Her second-in-command approached. Long-range sensors picked up unidentified signatures. Sarah turned. Pirates, too organized. Military? Looks that way. Sarah frowned. The Perseus Expanse was far from major trade routes. Military vessels had no reason to be here. Identify them. The officer nodded. Several minutes later he returned. His expression had changed. They're Varkani. Sarah's eyes narrowed. The Varkani Imperium, a rising power known for aggression. Their government viewed diplomacy as weakness. Expansion was their religion. Conquest was their language. What are they doing this far out? No idea. Sarah immediately ordered a system-wide alert. The station's crew moved quickly. Defensive shields activated, sensor arrays focused on the approaching vessels. Within an hour, 5 Varkani warships emerged from hyperspace. Their dark hulls reflected starlight like obsidian blades. They dwarfed the tiny outpost. A transmission arrived. The station's communication officer placed it on the main screen. A reptilian face appeared, golden eyes, gray scales, cold expression. I am Fleet Commander Zalthor of the Varkani Imperium. Sarah crossed her arms. State your purpose. The alien smiled. We claim this region. According to whose authority? Ours, Sarah sighed. Of course. We are operating legally under Galactic Assembly agreements. We do not recognize those agreements. Sarah remained calm. This station is sovereign human territory. The smile vanished. Then surrender it. No. For several seconds neither side spoke. Finally Zalthor leaned forward. You have 1 minute. The transmission ended. Inside the command center, silence filled the room. Everyone understood what was coming. Sarah opened a secure channel. Send emergency priority signal to Earth Command. The operator nodded. Signal sent. Estimated response time? The officer hesitated. Several hours. Sarah smiled faintly. They didn't have several hours. The Varkani fleet opened fire. Energy beams erupted across space. The station's shields flashed brilliantly. Alarms screamed. The entire structure shook. Shields at 89%. Return fire. The outpost possessed only a handful of defense cannons, tiny weapons compared to warships. Still, they fired. Blue plasma streaked across the darkness. 1 Varkani vessel suffered minor damage. The fleet answered with overwhelming force. Another barrage slammed into Epsilon-9. The shields dropped rapidly. 70%, 60, 50. The station was never designed to survive a fleet attack. Everyone knew it. Sarah knew it. Yet nobody panicked, because every human stationed on Epsilon-9 understood something outsiders never did. The outpost's purpose wasn't what appeared in official records. It wasn't merely a listening post. It was something far more important. Deep within the asteroid existed a classified installation known only as Vault Echo. Few personnel knew its true function. Sarah was one of them. As explosions rattled the station, she accessed a secured terminal, retina scan, genetic verification, quantum authorization, access granted, a hidden screen illuminated. One question appeared, confirm, threat level. Sarah selected the highest possible designation. Omega. For a moment nothing happened. Then the screen displayed a single line, "Mess received. Human Strategic Command activated, Sarah exhaled." Far away, thousands of light years from Epsilon-9, alarms began ringing across the Sol system. Inside Lunar Defense Headquarters, senior officers rushed into emergency briefing rooms. On Mars, military shipyards, halted production lines. Across dozens of classified facilities, identical alerts appeared. Omega event, confirmed, Outpost Epsilon-9 under attack. Vault Echo compromised. The reaction was immediate, not fear, not confusion, determination. An elderly admiral entered Earth's Strategic Operations Center. His name was David Mercer. For decades he had remained largely invisible to the galaxy. Most alien governments believed humanity possessed only modest military capabilities. Mercer preferred it that way. A young officer approached. "Sir, confirmation received." Mercer examined the data. 5 Varkani warships. Minor border incident, by galactic standards, nothing extraordinary. Yet his expression darkened. "They attacked Epsilon-9? "Yes, sir." Mercer looked around the room. Hundreds of personnel waited. "Activate Response Protocol Atlas." The room fell silent. Several officers exchanged nervous glances. One finally spoke. "Sir, Atlas." Mercer nodded. "No warnings, no negotiations, no proportional response." The officer swallowed. "Understood." Orders spread instantly, across hidden shipyards buried within asteroid belts. Massive structures awakened, gigantic doors opened, ancient reactors roared to life, entire fleets emerged from concealment, ships so large that many alien civilizations didn't even know humanity possessed them, because humanity had spent centuries preparing. Not for conquest, for deterrence, for the days someone made a catastrophic mistake, and the Varkani Imperium had just made one. Back at Epsilon-9, the battle continued. The station was dying, shields collapsed completely. Sections of the habitat ruptured. Emergency bulkheads sealed damaged compartments. Smoke-filled corridors. Crew members struggled to keep systems operational. Sarah remained on the bridge. Another explosion rocked the structure. "Commander." "What?" "We've lost life support in Sector 4. She nodded grimly. The Varkani were methodically dismantling the outpost. To them it was merely another conquest, another weak frontier station. Commander Jalthar watched from his flagship. Resistance? Minimal. Good. The alien commander felt satisfaction. The Imperium's leaders would reward him. Humans were expanding too quickly. Eating this station would send a message. Fear would spread. Humanity would retreat. The galaxy would understand Varkani supremacy. He could not have been more wrong. Several minutes later, one of his sensor officers spoke. "Commander." "What?" "We're detecting unusual energy readings." Zolthar frowned. "From the station?" "No." The officer looked confused. "From everywhere." Space itself seemed to shimmer. Long-range sensors suddenly overloaded. Own lights appeared across the bridge. Then came another report. The officer's voice trembled. "Multiple hyperspace signatures detected." "How many?" The sensor technician stared at the display. Disbelief filled his face. "There must be an error. Answer me." The officer swallowed. "Thousands." For the first time, Commander Jalthar felt uneasy. Outside his flagship, reality appeared to tear open. Massive rifts formed throughout the system. 1, 10, hundreds, thousands. And from those rifts emerged humanity's response. The Varkani had attacked an outpost. They expected a protest, perhaps a patrol fleet. Instead, they had awakened something the galaxy had never seen. The bridge of the Varkani flagship fell silent. Commander Jalthar stared at the tactical display. Thousands of hyperspace ruptures had appeared across the system. At first he assumed the sensors were malfunctioning. No civilization possessed fleets of that size, not even the ancient powers, not even the Galactic Assembly's combined military, yet the readings remained. The impossible was real. One by one, colossal human warships emerged from hyperspace. They were unlike anything the Varkani had encountered. Their hulls were dark and angular, massive. Armored plates covered their surfaces. Entire, mountain-sized weapons platforms rotated into firing positions. Each vessel radiated power on a scale that bordered on absurd. The largest human ships were nearly 20 kilometers long, some were even larger. Zolthar's confidence began to crack. "What are those things?" No one answered, the sensor officers simply stared. Their instruments struggled to classify the incoming vessels. Most databases returned the same result. Meanwhile, aboard Epsilon-9, Commander Sarah Hayes watched through the shattered observation dome. The stars themselves seemed to disappear behind the arriving fleet. A communications officer laughed nervously. "I think they got our message." Sarah smiled for the first time since the attack began. "They always do." Across the system, the human fleet continued arriving. Then something happened that terrified the Varkani even more. The fleet stopped, no immediate attack, no weapons fire, no aggressive maneuvers. Just silence, a silence that felt deliberate, predatory, the kind of silence that came before a storm. A transmission appeared on every Varkani vessel simultaneously. Commander Zalthor hesitated before accepting it. The image that appeared showed an elderly human admiral. Gray hair, sharp eyes, calm expression. Admiral David Mercer, the man spoke without emotion. "You have attacked sovereign human territory." Zalthor straightened. "This system now belongs to the Varkani Imperium." Mercer's expression never changed. No, the single word somehow felt heavier than an entire speech. Zalthor forced confidence into his voice. "We have every right. You were warned." The Varkani commander frowned. "We received no warning." Mercer nodded. "Exactly." Silence filled the bridge, then the admiral continued. "For 300 years humanity has pursued peace." His eyes hardened. "You mistook that for weakness." The transmission ended. No threats, no dramatic declaration, no negotiation, just finality. The tactical officer suddenly shouted. "Energy surge detected." Every human vessel activated simultaneously. The system lit up like a newborn star. Zalthor's eyes widened. "Shields. Raise all shields." Too late, the first human salvo fired. Not missiles, not plasma, not lasers, something far worse, kinetic lances. Projectiles accelerated to a fraction of light speed. Invisible death. The Varkani never saw them coming. One moment their lead destroyer existed, the next it became expanding debris. The projectile passed directly through the vessel, armor, shields, bulkheads. Everything ceased to matter. A second destroyer vanished, then a third, then a fourth. The battlefield erupted into chaos. Human weapons fired with terrifying precision. Every shot destroyed a target. Every target died instantly. The Varkani attempted to return fire. Energy beams crossed the void. Missiles launched, rail cannons thundered. The human fleet barely noticed. Their defensive systems intercepted everything. Nothing reached its target. Nothing. For the first time in decades, Commander Zalthor felt genuine fear. "Retreat." The order came too late. The human fleet advanced. Massive battleships accelerated forward. Drone swarms poured from hidden launch bays. Thousands became millions. Millions became billions. Entire clouds of autonomous combat units flooded space. The Varkani formation collapsed. One cruiser attempted to escape through hyperspace. A human vessel fired a gravitic disruption beam. The cruiser froze. Its hyperspace drive failed instantly. Seconds later, concentrated railgun fire tore it apart. Another ship tried to flee. A missile strike vaporized it. Every route of escape vanished. The battle had become an execution. Within 12 minutes, 4 Varkani warships had been destroyed. The fifth drifted helplessly, its weapons disabled, its engines crippled. Commander Zalthor watched the devastation unfold around him. Thousands of crew members were dead. The fleet was gone. The mission had failed. No. It had never been a mission, it had been a suicide note. A human transmission arrived. "Commander Zalthor." He answered reluctantly. Admiral Mercer appeared once more. "You are alive because we allowed it." Zalthor glared at him. "What do you want?" "Information." The alien commander laughed bitterly. "You think we'll surrender?" Mercer looked almost disappointed. "No." He turned toward someone off-screen. "Proceed." A second later, every classified file inside the Varkani flagship disappeared. Databases, military records, Nakadation archives, strategic plans, all copied instantly. Zalthor stared in disbelief. "How?" Mercer ignored the question. "Thank you for your cooperation." The transmission ended. Moments later, boarding craft surrounded the crippled flagship. Human Marines entered. The battle was over. Yet humanity's response had barely begun. thousands of light-years away, panic erupted across the Varkani Imperium. Government officials rushed through command centers, military leaders shouted conflicting orders. Emergency sessions were called. The attack on Epsilon-9 had been approved by a regional commander. Nobody expected consequences, certainly not consequences of this scale. Inside the imperial capital, Supreme Regent Korvac listened to the reports. His expression darkened with every update. Repeat that. The intelligence officer swallowed. The assault fleet has been destroyed. Destroyed? Completely. Korvac slammed his fist onto the table. By whom? The answer seemed ridiculous. Humanity. The room fell silent. One minister laughed nervously. Impossible. The intelligence officer activated a holographic display. Ramcorded footage appeared. Gigantic human warships. Varkani vessels exploding. Entire formations erased within seconds. Nobody laughed anymore. Korvac stared at the images. Something felt wrong. The galaxy had misunderstood humanity. Terribly misunderstood. Where did they get a fleet like that? No one knew. For centuries humans had hidden their true military strength. The question wasn't how powerful they were. The question was how much stronger they might be. Another officer entered. His face had gone pale. Supreme Regent. What now? We've lost contact with 6 border sectors. The room grew colder. Lost contact? Human fleets have entered Imperial space. Korvac stood abruptly. How many? The officer hesitated. Thousands. The Supreme Regent suddenly understood. This wasn't retaliation. This wasn't a military response. This was a campaign, and it had already begun. Meanwhile, humanity's hidden war machine continued awakening, deep inside the Sol system. Ancient facilities opened for the first time in centuries. Shipyards hidden within asteroids activated. Automated factories accelerated production. Weapon stockpiles were unlocked. Entire reserve fleets emerged from secrecy. The scale was staggering. Even many human citizens didn't know these assets existed. Humanity had spent generations preparing for worst-case scenarios. Not because they desired war, because history taught them a simple lesson. Peace survives only when protected. Admiral Mercer stood inside Strategic Command. Massive holographic displays filled the room. Thousands of enemy systems glowed red. An officer approached. Phase 1 complete. Mercer nodded. Enemy response? Disorganized. Expected. Another officer stepped forward. Fleet groups Alpha through Kappa have crossed the border. Mercer examined the tactical map. The Varkani Imperium stretched across hundreds of systems. Horrors earlier it had appeared powerful. Now it looked vulnerable, shockingly vulnerable, because its military doctrine relied on intimidation, human doctrine relied on preparation, and preparation was winning. Begin Phase 2. The command spread instantly, across dozens of sectors. Human fleets accelerated targets were selected, military shipyards, fleet bases, weapons depots command centers, only military infrastructure, civilian worlds remained untouched. Humanity was sending a message, the attack had consequences. But they would not become monsters, not yet. The first major target was the fortress system of Kharon. For generations it had served as the Imperium's strongest military hub. Its defenses were legendary: orbital cannons, planetary shields, hundreds of warships, millions of soldiers. Many believed Kharon was impossible to conquer. The defenders certainly did. Then the humans arrived. 300 warships emerged from hyperspace. The fortress opened fire immediately. Space filled with energy beams, missiles, explosions. Human vessels advanced through the barrage. Unstoppable, the defenders watched in horror as their weapons achieved almost nothing. Then the humans returned fire. Kharon's orbital defense grid vanished within minutes. Entire platforms disappeared. Command stations exploded. Shield generators failed. By the end of the first hour, the fortress system had surrendered, not conquered, not occupied. Simply neutralized. The human fleet moved on, leaving the defenders alive, leaving the population unharmed, leaving only a warning. Do not interfere. The message spread across the Imperium. Fear followed, because everyone realized the same thing: humanity wasn't struggling, humanity wasn't slowing down, humanity wasn't even using its full strength, and somewhere beyond the advancing fleets, Earth's leaders were preparing for the final stage of the operation, the stage that terrified even veteran admirals. The stage known only by a single codename, Hammerfall. Its target wasn't a fleet, it wasn't a military base, it wasn't a border sector. Its target was the Varkani homeworld itself, and when the order was finally given, the galaxy would witness a demonstration of power unlike anything in recorded history. Far away on the capital world of Varkara Prime, billions of citizens continued their daily lives. Most had no idea what was coming. Most believed the Imperial fleet would stop the humans. Most believed their government remained in control. They were wrong, very, very wrong, because at that exact moment, hidden beyond the edge of their star system, the largest human armada ever assembled was silently arriving. Thousands of warships, millions of drones, planet-cracking weapons, reality-warping technologies, enough firepower to erase civilizations, and every vessel carried the same destination coordinates, Varkara Prime, the homeworld of the Empire that had made the greatest mistake in its history.